So to start off, I joined Tamatem about a year ago, over a year ago. And since then, I've been working with great people to grow, expand, and develop the team at Tamatem. There we go. So in today's session, what I want to cover is a few things. So to start off, I do want to talk about what it's like working at the gaming startup. I want to introduce Tomatom and what we do, what our workflow and operations are like, talk about some of our products and our culture, and definitely touch on how we worked from home during the COVID-19 pandemic. And last but not least, I do want to give some tips for job seekers, as this is definitely a competitive time for everyone. And do please feel free to send in any questions if you have any, and we'll try to get to them at the end of the session, maybe. All right. So,
Then let me just say, guys, the session, please ask any of your questions on the chat, and we will try to get to questions towards the end. Just to give heads up, if we don't have time to answer questions, I think you will be able to post them on the Tomatom page on Localized and connect with Zein there as well. Zein, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so Tamatem is a mobile games publisher. What we do is we provide localized content and culturally relevant content to the Arabic-speaking market. So to start off, just a few numbers about the market that we work in. And so Tamatem, the Arabic region has the highest average revenue per paying user in the world, which averages at about $270. There are over 100 million Arabic smartphone users, and this underserved market is expected to reach $2.3 billion by 2022. However, less than 1% of the content online is available in Arabic. And so there are so many opportunities, and now is definitely the time to be working in the gaming industry. So what does Tomatom do? We partner up with international game studios and game developers from all around the world to provide localized content and monetize the games for the Arabic-speaking market. So I'm sure all of you have played mobile games like Candy Crush, like Farmville or Design Home. What we do is we take these games and we make them in Arabic. So after we sign a new title with a game studio, the first phase that we work on is the localization phase. So what we do is we optimize the games for Arabic players, and I'll definitely talk more about that in a bit. The second phase is the monetization phase, where we improve a game's monetization by up to 2 times. So what we do is we study the user's behaviors, we study their spending patterns, we try to get feedback on what they want inside the game, and based on that, we provide them with personalized offers and promotions, and so on. The third phase is the marketing phase. So we work on marketing our games through different platforms, whether social media or other platforms, to be able to reach the largest amount of users and get them to start playing our games. And last but not least, we provide our games with 24/7 support. And this allows us to help our users with any issues they might have, any questions they might have. And we're also getting constant feedback and support and ideas and comments from our users for us to be able to implement inside our games. So a bit about the difference between localization and translation. So we do a lot more in localization than just translating the text. Initially, we translate the text to Arabic, but the Arabic we use is understandable across the MENA region and is culturally relevant. And not only that, but we do also work on localizing all the graphics, all the arts inside the game. And so if it's characters, clothes, just different assets inside the game, we try to localize these so that they are more relevant to our culture. Thirdly, we also work on story changes or lore changes. So the storyline is a very important aspect of a game. And therefore, we try to localize it without really taking away the essence of the game. We do make it more relevant to our culture for the Arabic-speaking user. Fourthly, we have the ASO or App Store optimization. So when localizing the title for one of our new games, we do a lot of research on finding out what the best combination of words is that users are looking for. We try to optimize our titles as much as possible while also maintaining the original meaning of the title. Additionally, we have the user interface direction or the UI direction. So English is written from left to right, while Arabic is from right to left. So that also plays a huge part in once we're localizing the graphics as well and the general UI of the game. And last but not least, taking all of these things into consideration, we try to give a game that is adapted to the local culture, a game that Arabic users can identify with and enjoy. Right, so here's a case study on one of our top games. So we have the card game VIP Balut. So on the left, you can see the set of pictures from the original game, which is in Bulgarian by developer Casualino. This game actually had very similar features to the one we currently have now, VIP Balut, but it did have different rules. But the game Balut is very popular in the GCC. And so what we did is we did our user research, our market research. We saw what our users wanted. And as you can see with the set of pictures on the right, we have the localized version. So our game VIP Balut, which has localized artwork, localized text. And this game is actually a top grossing game in many countries in the MENA region with over 2 million installs today. So VIP Balut is one of our products. In fact, Tamatem has over 45 games published. We also have over 60 million installs across all of our games with over 3 million words translated. And on the right, you can see some of our current products. So we have VIP Balut and VIP Jalsat, which is a card and board game. We also have Mazra'at Bandar or Bandar's Farm, which is a builder game. We have Ghadab al-Shuj'an, previously Rage of the Righteous, which is an MMORPG game. And last but not least, we have Fashion Queen or Malikat al-Moda, which is our newest game. And currently, we're also working on the localization of 4 new titles, also with different genres. So we have a food truck chef, we have linguinis, we have a strategy game, and we also have a home design expert, which is to design your home and whatnot. And so behind these games are great teams that bring them to life. And so you might be wondering now what kinds of opportunities that might exist at Tomatom or where you might fit in. So I do want to talk about the teams that we have at Tamatom and what they work on. So at Tamatom, we have multidisciplinary teams ranging from design to product management to marketing and so on. And so I'm going to talk a bit about what each team does at Tamatom. So to start off, we have our community support team. So this team provides support to our users 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They help them out with any questions they have, any inquiries, and they're also on the front line with our users. And so being connected to our users allows the support team to gather feedback and comments for us to be constantly improving our games by adding what they want into, by incorporating these aspects into our game. And so if you're a people person and if you like listening and implementing feedback, this is definitely the place for you. Secondly, we have our business development team. So the BD team is for people who like to network and build connection. This team is responsible for all of our partnership opportunities with all of the game developers that we work with and around the world. So the BD team has an internal due diligence process to vet games and all the new titles that we might be signing. So they look at all the metrics, all the numbers, whether the game is localizable or not. We test out the gameplay and and all of that to be able to see if this game should be published by Tomatom. We also have the HR team. So the HR team, we're basically responsible for growing and expanding the team at Tamatem. We're also responsible for maintaining the culture, and we focused a lot on the learning and development aspect, which I'll definitely be talking more about in a bit. We then have our product management team. So the product management team they're the organized people at Tamatem. Essentially, they're responsible for localizing, testing, launching and maintaining all of our games. They also work on keeping all of our users engaged through in-game tournaments, promotions and offers. And they're always in touch with our developers. They're the point of contact for developers to discuss any new features, any updates, and so on. We then have our marketing team. So the marketing team at Tamatem is actually divided into 3 sub-departments. Firstly, we have our data analytics team. These guys drive the data-driven culture at Tamatem. So they work on looking at all of our numbers in terms of marketing, in terms of user behavior, in terms of the spending patterns of users and their actions inside the game so that we are able to keep optimizing based on these numbers. Secondly, we have our performance marketing and user acquisition team. In this team, they work on all of our paid advertisements, all of our campaigns, and they work on acquiring new users to play all of our games. And last but not least, we have our influencer marketing team, where they work on collaborating with influencers to promote our games to users. Then we have our social media and creatives team. So they are responsible for managing all of our social media platforms. And they also produce all of the videos and creatives for all of our games. So they work on producing stuff for Tamatem as a brand, but also for our games. And these videos could be tutorials, they could be teasers and trailers for games that are coming, and just to give our users some help on how to use specific features or aspects inside the game. We then have our design and UI UX team. So these are the creative people at Tamatem. And to start off, they are heavily involved with the first phase, which is the localization phase. And so the design team works on localizing all of the assets inside the game once we are working on launching it. And then they also work on all of the in-game art, any banners, any items that are available in the item store, and so on. The design team is also a very data-driven team as well, and so they work a lot on A/B testing for App Store optimization, so for icons, previews for all of our games. These are continuously tested in order for us to find the best set of designs. Then we have our PR team. So our PR team plans all of our conferences, events, and seminars. And now in the time of COVID, obviously mostly webinars. They're also responsible for all of our media coverage. And the PR team targets 4 different parties. We have any future or potential investors, any potential candidates that could join Tamatem, all of our users, and game developers from all around the world. And last but not least, we have our finance and admin team. So these guys work on all of the legal matters pertaining to the company, all office-related paperwork, and they also handle all of our financial accounts. So something that all of these teams share is the values. So at Tamatem, the culture is based upon these values that we all share as a team. And I do want to talk about each one a bit. So first and foremost, we have transparency. So at Tamatem, there is open communication between all departments, and data is available to everyone. So all team members are always in the loop and know what's happening, whether it's marketing data, whether it's the financials. Everyone is always in touch with what's happening at the company. Secondly, we have ethics. So we actually have a very fun atmosphere at Tamatem, but it's also very respectful. And so it's a safe environment with no judgments and zero tolerance for harassment. We also have curiosity. So the thing we always say at Tomatom is learn as much as you can. So we always encourage our employees to always keep learning, to stay involved, to stay up to date with the industry, with the business we're in, and to always keep asking questions. We also have initiative. So we always love to hear new ideas. So we're always also encouraged to work independently at Tamatem. And even if we make mistakes, we're encouraged to fix them, to find what the best solutions are. We're encouraged to make our own decisions and to be proactive all of the time. We also have selflessness. So we're all working together to achieve a common goal. So we always find the time to help out a colleague if they need so, to give credit when credit is due, and to seek what is best for the company as a whole and not for our individual interests. And last but not least, we're all passionate about what we do. And so we all love games, we all believe in our mission, and we're all dedicated in to the company. So it's very important for us to be working with passion all the time because it always brings great results to everything we do. So these values are basically what our company culture is built on. And Tamatem also has a friendly environment that always encourages teams to work together. So in the picture on the left, you can see a picture of our offices. So we have open space offices where all the team members are working together without partitions, which definitely builds synergy between all of our teams. We also, in the picture on the right, you can see our dining area where we also always have our lunch together, our breakfast. So this, it maintains a space for open communication and easy communication. In addition to that, team activities are a huge part of our culture at Tamatem. We have our weekly team activities, which are almost always football games, as you can see in the top right picture. But we also do play some laser tag sometimes, some basketball. We go out for lunch and for dinner. And so we really believe it's important for us to have activities outside the office to strengthen the bonds between all team members. So that's one cool thing about working at a startup. Another really important thing is the steep learning curve. So when startups are just beginning, teams are usually very small, and in many cases you can find a person that is working on multiple projects at the same time. And so this allows a lot of growth, a lot of learning in a short period of time. So if you do plan on joining a startup, expect to learn a lot. And so the cool thing at Tamatem in terms of learning and development is that all teams get involved. So when we're publishing a new game, all employees play the game, we test them out, we conduct focus groups where everyone pitches in with their opinions. And since a lot of people at Tomatom are actually gamers, these opinions are invaluable to us. So the idea is that everyone contributes. So we all come up with the localized titles, we vote on different aspects of the game. So this allows, firstly, employees from all teams to work together, and it fosters teamwork and cross-functional collaboration, and it also gives everyone a chance to learn new things. And it also recognizes every person's job as extremely important and vital to the company's mission. And so learning and growth and development is extremely important at Tamatem. So right now and at almost any given time, if you come into our offices, you'd find that everyone is either taking up an online course or learning something new, whether it's through the brainstorming sessions, the focus groups, or the cross-functional collaborations. We also do work on a learning plan that is set at the beginning of each year. So teams, along with their managers, research what courses they want to take. They conduct analyses on what the skills that they want to improve are, what areas that they want to improve. And so based on that, courses are chosen to be taken across the year to ensure that everyone is always learning. Another really cool thing in terms of learning and development is something we hold called the knowledge sharing sessions. So almost on a weekly basis, someone from the company holds a knowledge sharing session where they talk about anything they're interested in. So a book they read, a cool idea they found out about. And so actually our most recent one yesterday was about Bartle's taxonomy. And so anyone and everyone can present these sessions, and it's always something new. There's always something to learn, which is definitely very cool. And I do want to talk a bit about my personal story at Tomatom. So when I joined over a year ago, I actually had no prior experience in recruitment or human capital or HR at all. However, I joined, I had very supportive team members. I learned a lot from people that were working around me. I did my own research. And today, I'm very proud to say that I'm leading all the recruitment efforts at Tamatem. And I'm also teaching and training our newest team member how to recruit. So there's definitely a lot of self-development, a lot of self-satisfaction. And when you look at the timeline of a year, the amount of experience you get is worth a lot more than that. So it's definitely a very cool thing. So something that I do want to talk about as well is what happened with us over the past 3-4 months while working from home during the COVID-19 pandemic. So you might be wondering how we functioned since we transitioned to online work, and how we've maintained the values and the aspects that I've just talked about. And so we tried to continue all of our rituals, our engagement, all of the spirit of collaboration, and our healthy habits lifestyle, all through working from home. So thankfully, we were able to shift all of our work to a virtual space. We conducted a lot of research on the best practices of remote work. And as a lot of people had not had a remote work experience before, we did have to experiment in the beginning on what the best methods were for our team members and the company as a whole. So some of our findings were that over communication was key. So some teams decided that they wanted to have 10 to 15 minute check-in calls on a daily basis, just to stay connected, to go over their tasks with their managers and supervisors, and to stay updated on what's happening. And we also tried to maintain all of our rituals from the office. So Our weekly Scrum meetings were all held over Zoom. We played our Kahoot games over Zoom. We did try to encourage healthy habits as well while working from home. So everything we did at the office in terms of stretching, in terms of habits, we also did over Zoom as well. And at one point in Jordan, we actually had a time where we were not able to use our cars, and so we were only able to walk outside. And so we had weekly meetings at the company where we'd hold the meeting over Zoom, but outside, and everyone would be walking around. So that was really cool. That really just basically pushed people to be more active during that time. And last but not least, the most notable activity for me personally was the weekly card game tournament. So every Tuesday we had a card game tournament where teams played against each other on our application VIP Jalsat, also through Zoom. So this definitely gave everyone a chance to connect virtually outside of work, and also definitely added a lot of value to onboarding new hires, which was especially important because we actually had to grow our team during the pandemic and during working from home. So with many countries being on strict lockdowns and curfews during the pandemic, the demand for mobile games grew exponentially. And so people had a lot of time on their hands and were able to play more games. And additionally, during the first 2 quarters of 2020, Tamatem actually signed 4 new titles and launched 2 new games. And so we did have to grow the team to be able to match the workload. Thankfully, we were able to successfully interview, assess, hire, and onboard around 10 employees during from mid-March until mid-June. And so we conducted all of our interviews through Zoom, following the same hiring process that we had earlier. And during the onboarding process, we wanted to make sure that all new hires felt connected to the company and were able to get a sense of what our culture was like. And so firstly, we implemented a buddy system where each new hire got paired up with someone from a different team. And this encouraged cross-team communication from day one. And it also gave new hires someone they could ask questions, any inquiries they had, and just someone to help them out with anything they might need. And so thankfully, the past few months have been a good time for Tomatom, with our daily active users increasing by 40%. And revenue doubled between January and May of 2020. And as I mentioned, we also hired around 10 new employees. And last but not least, before we finish off the session, I just wanted to give job seekers a few pieces of advice that I believe might help out a lot when looking for a job. And so we know that this market, it's pretty competitive at this point, and with many people looking for jobs across all functions, all levels, all industries. And so this is the time where candidates must differentiate themselves and stand out in front of employers. And as someone who reviews hundreds of candidates, CVs and resumes on a daily basis, and has tons of calls with candidates, I felt like there are a few things that always give the people I talk to a competitive edge. So first of all, update your resume. Having an updated resume and clear resume is extremely important. And so make sure that you not only list your past jobs, but also what you actually did, what your roles were, what achievements or skills you had in that role that you believe will contribute to the position that you're applying for. So extremely important to have a clear and updated resume. Secondly, Try to tailor your applications and emails and cover letters as much as possible. So if you're attaching an email with your resume, um, if you're talking about something specific to the company, so for example, let's say if I get an email and someone mentions that they've been a gamer since they were like 5 years old, or if they mention a skill that they have that they believe will contribute to the company, to the position they're applying for, this person is definitely more favorable at that point, as I do know that this person has prepped, has read about the company, and knows what the position they're applying to is. And that's also a very important aspect as well, is getting to know the company you're applying for. So once you've applied to a certain company, at that point, you never know when you can get an interview or a phone screen. So definitely read up about the company, get to know what it does, what accomplishments it's had over the past few years or so. And this will definitely help out a lot when getting a screen or an interview. Also, honesty is always the best policy. So companies really do value honesty. So when having a phone screen or an interview, we'd very much rather know that a person is a beginner in a specific area, so that we know what to expect, for example, rather than thinking that this person is actually advanced, and then we get to find out during the process, during the interview or assessment phase, that this person is actually a beginner. And as I mentioned before, so transparency is one of the most important values that we have at Tamatem. And so as long as candidates have the passion and the initiative and the curiosity, you might still be a good fit for the job. And last but not least, preparation. So prepping is one of the most important things you can do before an interview, and coming in with a clear idea on the company, the position, your skills, your past, some achievements that you've had in your career will definitely show recruiters that you've done your homework. And I just want to encourage you all to apply to Tomatom Games today. As you can see in front of you, there's the email jobs@tomatom.co where you can send in your resumes. And you can also check out our careers page at www.tomatom.co and see if there's anything that might match your skills. And I'd like to thank you all for attending this session today. And thank you so much for listening.
Hey, great, Zein. Thank you for that presentation. It's refreshing to hear, for starters, that the company has grown so much in this past period. I guess, and it really shows. I mean, when you talk about your initiatives, when you talk about how you onboard people and how you guys have managed to transition to the online or the virtual kind of space, it's clear why you would be growing at this time. Honestly, I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
I have a ton of questions I'd love to ask you, but
sure.
I also want to give a chance to our audience to ask. So I'm actually gonna give priority to our audience.
All right.
The questions. So let's start with. Give me a second. Oh, so okay. So Suwar is asking, are you currently hiring? How important is having a background in gaming for your potential hires?
Yes, we are definitely hiring at the moment. So we actually have openings in multiple teams. We're looking to hire data analysts, designers, graphic designers, motion graphic designers, as well as junior product managers to join our team. And so in terms of gaming experience, it's definitely a plus. However, due to the let's say the market itself, so there aren't a lot of gaming companies around and not a lot of people that are specializing in gaming at this point. So we do not expect or require that people have a gaming background. However, it definitely does help. And actually being a gamer or someone who's interested in games is also definitely an added positive.
Can I add on to that? What does, I mean, you don't need to have gaming experience, but are there specific is there specific knowledge that you expect candidates to have, like a minimum kind of knowledge, or is that?
Definitely. So for specific positions, yes, we do actually have requirements. So let's say in terms of product management, and while we understand that a person might not have worked in managing a game before, but the essentials of product management are actually a requirement, because we do anticipate that in the first few months there's going to be intensive training for new hires to be able to get in touch with the gaming industry, all of the metrics, all of the details that we have. But I would say that in terms of the profession itself, it would help being knowledgeable about the tools that we use, or tools that are similar to what we use, and not necessarily just gaming experience, but definitely in what a person does initially. So with data analysis, having the tools that we work on, strong background in numbers and analysis, that definitely helps out a lot.
And let me ask you, are there specifics, since there isn't a lot of gaming companies, and so you don't expect people to come with a lot of experience, are there particular training courses that you could recommend for somebody to get closer to that kind of? Does that even exist? I actually don't know.
There are definitely courses online that actually some of us have taken at Tomatom as well. So you can find courses on, let's say, game product management, analysis in the gaming industry. There are a lot of boot camps for data analytics as well. But in different areas, more in, let's say, design, maybe, you might not find that in particular, but that's where we go back to the tools that are necessary to be used at the company. But other than that, we look at a person's style, how they work, how they approach, how their creativity is in design, for example, to see that with the right training from our end, once a person has joined, that they can definitely progress further and be able to do the job 100%.
Great. So learn the tools, guys. Know what tools are being used. Learn those, and where available, do take courses because they do help for sure. We have a question from Anas. I guess this might be a bit of a technical. I don't know if you'll be able to answer. He says he's interested to know how a game is modified to a custom demeanor region. He doesn't think that the game is built again from scratch. So he's then asking, is there some kind of relationship that you guys have with the creator of the game, such as like sharing the source code and things like that?
Definitely. So I did touch on that a bit earlier. So what we do from our end is not the technical aspect. So yes, there is a mutual relationship with the game company that we work with. So it's a partnership from day one. And so what we do from our end is provide them with the documentation of everything that we want implemented inside the game. So in terms of the text, we receive text files to be translated and localized into Arabic, and then we send them back to the developer of the game to be implemented. And that's the same thing with any graphics, any arts, any assets inside the game. We create mock-ups and from our end, or in terms of UI, some prototyping and wireframing, and we send these documents to the developer for them to implement them inside the game. So it's a mutual relationship that remains from day one, and everything is done collaboratively. So we don't actually just end up working on the game on our own.
Excellent. We have another question from Tariq. He says, thank you, Zein. My question is, now that Tamatem is on a steady upwards trajectory, are you considering hiring for corporate strategy and business development roles?
Definitely. I mean, the thing is that what happened over the past 3 months was something that no one had expected. And so thankfully, as I mentioned, with the growth that Tomatom witnessed over the past few months, and with our strategy this year to grow the company and to sign on a lot more games, I would say that towards the end of the year, we would definitely be looking at more people to join our BD team and our strategy team, because with as I mentioned earlier as well, with the market having a great opportunity for us to basically delve in, we're definitely looking at expanding within the next year. And I think business development is well, it's basically the starting point, and so we would definitely be looking to add people to our team.
Great, thank you for answering that. Let me get your opinion as somebody that sees so many CVs and meets so many candidates, and I'm sure a lot of the people that you do meet are in the technical side. So
yeah.
Over the past 3 days, we've been hearing a lot about soft skills and the importance of soft skills. Could you please talk to us about how Tomatom perceives these soft skills, and what is it that students can do to possibly enhance these soft skills?
So that's a very good question, to be honest, because yes, the technical part is very important, and it's the core, let's say, of a position. But we also, as I mentioned earlier, look for certain values in a person once they're joining our team. And so let's say for instance, communication. It's very important for us to be able to openly communicate with each other, to be able to get our ideas across in an efficient way and in a suitable manner. So definitely the soft skills play a huge role in basically the kinds of candidates that we look for. And we also look at like you said, the non-technical aspect of it. That also feeds into the technical aspect. So they're not kind of standalone. They work hand in hand. So for example, someone who is working in product management should definitely have the technical skills, but also to be able to communicate with all the teams, to be able to communicate with the developers that we work with. You need to have interpersonal skills, strong communication skills, to be able to work and thrive in an environment where there's a lot of teamwork, where there's a lot of cross-functional collaboration. So I think we believe at Tomatom that, let's say, technical skills and soft skills go hand in hand. And it's very important that a person is able to excel at both.
So you can take an exam to show the technical skills that you have.
Yeah.
What can a candidate do to show, whether on the resume stage or if they get to a phone screen or a one-on-one interview even, what can a candidate do to show that they have strong communication skills, that they have they have an ability to work well within a team? How can a candidate show that at these stages?
Right, so there's actually something that I work with when evaluating candidates. So as you said, we actually, as part of our process, after our phone screen, we have an assessment that tests the technical skills. But let's say we've reached a candidate has reached the first personal interview. So at that stage, what I personally use for evaluation is something called the STAR method. So this is I believe that candidates should be able to answer their questions and answer them based on the STAR method, which is the situation, task, action, and result. So this gives us an idea and allows us to be able to see, right, so what was the situation the candidate was in when I asked, so the question, let's say it's to tell me about a cool project that candidate has worked on. So what was the situation? What was that person's task? So that shows me whether that person was working within a team, whether this person was working independently. And then the action, or what's happened, if there was a mistake, if there was an error. And that also shows me how a person deals with mistakes. Is this person going to step up and say, I made this mistake, but I want to solve it now. I want to find a solution. Is this person going to go ahead and ask their team members for help, or are they going to just shy away and try to solve the solution to the problem on their own? And it also shows me with the result, it shows that a candidate has actually learned from this experience, what were the main takeaways, what were the outcomes. And so the STAR method really, when a candidate is answering with all of those, let's say, aspects, it allows us to look at multiple behavioral aspects. So like you said, with communication, with interpersonal skills, a person's ability to work within a team, how a person deals with his or her manager. And there's a lot, and I would really recommend that candidates do look at the STAR method, do some research about the STAR method, definitely before going into any interview.
Great advice from Zein, guys, about once you get to an interview stage, how to really make an impression. Let me ask you another question about that, the stage before the interview. So you receive, as you mentioned, you go through hundreds of CVs possibly on a day. I'm sure you do not call all of them. And I'm sure
Definitely.
once you
We'd love to.
call, you even meet much less. What can I do as Ahmed? And let me tell you, and I think probably a lot of our audience are thinking the same thing. How cool is working at a gaming company? It's fun.
Yeah.
You guys obviously have a great culture. And it really, it's a lot of technical work. There's a lot of work, and also, so it is proper real work, but it's fun because you're talking about games. And where else can I go and say that, yeah, I'm a gamer and that's helped me to get a job, right? You can't
exactly.
many places. So you're receiving hundreds of CVs. What can I do on my CV to get to a phone conversation or to get to a face-to-face meeting? What are you looking for in a CV?
So normally what we get sometimes is CVs that might not be updated, CVs that don't have the details that we're looking for. So the resume is the first stop for a recruiter. So that's the first thing we're looking at. And on average, research says that some recruiters take only 6 seconds to look at a resume and then they're on to the next one. And so for me personally, what I want is to see a clear structure. I need to see that when I'm looking for a data analyst, mention the skills that you worked on, or the tools that you worked on before. So for me, the first stage when you're screening these resumes, like you said, so a lot of these people don't make it to the second stage because even though they might have the skill even though they might have worked on a specific tool before, if it's not mentioned on your resume, most likely you will not go on to the next stage. So if you're applying specifically for a role, try to read up on the job description. Is there anything that is required as a required skill on the job description that you actually have? If you do and it's not on your resume, add it immediately, because that will show me that, right, you're ticking one of the boxes, one of the, let's say, technical boxes that I'm looking for. And if you're also doing something, for example, let's say you're a designer and you have worked on UI UX, or you've worked on some app store optimization, but it was a very small part of your job. But if you've done that and you see that this job requires that, mention that in your resume. And when someone's having a phone screen, you can mention that I'm a beginner at this aspect, but I have experimented with it before. So definitely just trying to tailor as much as possible to the job that you're applying for. And normally job descriptions are available online on careers pages and sites. So you can get an idea of what the company is looking for and try to tell the company that, hey, I'm doing the same thing. So this is why you should choose me.
Excellent, thank you, Zein. We still have a couple of more questions, but unfortunately we're coming up to time actually, and we need to close up this session to move on to the next one. The people that didn't get a chance to get your answers answered, please do visit the Tamatem page on Localized. Ask your question there, and I'm sure that on the chat in the channel there, and I'm sure that Zein will be able to answer you. Zein, again, thank you very much for this session. I enjoyed speaking to you a lot. It was extremely informative. Do you have any last things that you'd like to mention?
No, I just like to thank everyone for attending the session, and I hope you guys have found some of it useful. And I'd like to wish you all good luck in your job search. And as Ahmed said, please, if you have any questions, do ask them on the channel, on the Talk to Our HR representative on Localized. And I'll be answering your questions, hopefully within the day. And thank you so much again. Thank you, Ahmed. The pleasure is all mine. So glad to be here.
I'm very happy to have had this session with you. Thank you, Zein. Thank you, everybody.